Hello and welcome to the part 2 of the series, which is Introduction to GMAT and MBA application process. In the first part, we looked at what is it that we can look for while selecting a B school, and what are the questions that you need to be asking yourself when you look at an MBA program, why you want to do an MBA. Part 2, we will be completing the MBA application part by looking at what does the MBA application process involve and what do B schools look for, right? So that's what we'll be looking at in the second part. So let's get started. So first thing is you have to understand how the process works. So this is an overview of how B schools select, correct? So B schools select through a process which typically approximately about 6 to 8 months. So when does it start? It starts with the pre-application process, and the pre-application process is nothing but the activities that you need to do in order to be ready for the application, correct? So let's look at what are those activities. So the first thing is take the GMAT. I mean, this is as simple as it can get, this advice, because you have to take the GMAT in order to apply to most top schools. So be sure that you are ready with the exam. Now, don't take the exam, say, 3 months before or say 3 weeks before your deadline, because let's assume, God forbid, something were to happen and you have to take the test again. It will not give you an opportunity to reschedule the test, correct? So try to take it as early as possible. That's my advice. And apart from GMAT, you also have what is called as your recommendation, correct? So recommendation is where we have, the college requiring you to write in with the names of 2 people who have worked with you in a professional capacity, correct? So just make sure that you are able to get the recommenders in place. Identify, talk to them, tell them that you are interested in an MBA, or try to get a buy-in from them, right? So a lot of times, just before the application, I've seen applicants running here and there. Choose, we'll get onto who the recommenders are, choosing the recommenders in the next slide. Get your college transcripts. Transcripts are nothing but mark sheets provided in a single page, right? So you don't need to worry about it in the end. Just apply for it. A lot of these schools have an online procedure. You can apply using that and get an idea of the MBA programs you want to apply to, which is what the first part really talked about, which is how to select the schools. You also want to be looking at your own profile, which we will be discussing in this presentation. What are you supposed to do in the application? You go online to to the college website, create a username password. Okay, it's pretty simple. You create a username password, provide all the details. They'll ask you hazard details about education, experience, extracurriculars, co-curriculars. So fill out all those details. There will be a link where you'll have to give the email address of your recommender. So the earlier days of giving a hard copy letter is gone. It's all through email, okay? So the recommenders would have to give their email address, and this email address cannot be, rajeshkumar@gmail.com, right? It has to be from the official email ID. And you have to essentially fill in the essays that you're writing, and if you're selected after the first initial assessment, you might be called for an interview. You go and take the interview and you are good to go, correct? Post application, so give you a rough timeline. This is as early as possible. Do it today. Do it, 1 year in advance. Do as early as possible. August to February is when the actual deadline starts. Now, what is the meaning of a deadline? Deadline means this is the time before which you need to apply. Usually, there will be 2 deadlines, correct? So, to give an example, ISB typically has a deadline somewhere starting September end and November 15th or November end, correct? There could be other schools. For example, US schools have their deadlines in October and January, correct? Some spilling into February. There are some other schools where it is February, correct? Some schools which is December. So just check where the application deadline is. And my recommendation is apply. So if you already have all the required data with you by say July, then what you can do is apply to one school in October, say 2 schools in October, 1 school in November, 1 school in December. Try to spread, because this is actually intensive work, right? It's labor intense work. You have to sit and you have to write all the essays. It takes a lot of your energy. So just be careful on, that part. Now, the post-MBA part. So the post-MBA part, post-application part, like provided you get in B school of your choice. What are the things you need to be doing post-February, March, April typically, is figure out where you're going to get your finances from. Financial planning is very important, and that's a separate topic altogether that we will be covering in one of our later sessions. Apply for the visa in case the MBA is not in India, and try connecting with people in the same batch. A lot of times you'll be able to get very valuable information from these people. So these are questions such as, what food items do I need to take, or how are you getting your funding? Is there any prerequisites? Which is what the last part is, take any pre-MBA courses as required. So a lot of times the B school may look at your transcripts and say, hey, you seem to be a smart guy, but you want to make sure that you are able to do well when you come over here. So why don't you take this extra course in say accounting, right? Or maybe Excel. So just make sure that you put a tick on that checkbox. So this is essentially how the process works. Now let's just quickly go through each part. Recommendation letter. Don't bother too much with the title. So a lot of people get fixated with the fact that I need to get it from a senior VP or I need to get it from an MD of a company. Not true. You can get it from a project leader, project manager. But what is more important, that he can write well. Okay. The biggest mistake that people do is they take it from people who are so high up the hierarchy that they really don't have the time to write, or they may not know you as well. Correct? So rather than getting a very short piece written from someone high up, I would rather have a pretty elaborate personal recommendation coming from someone who has worked with me professionally. Some people take it from their immediate reporting managers. Some may take it from a manager on a dotted line. Some may even take it from a client, right? A client recommendation is also considered to be pretty good. So what you do is, so one thing is, I've seen a lot of places where candidates have come and said the recommender doesn't have time and he wants me to write something for him. My advice, please, please, please don't do so. Correct? And this is, ethics is obviously one part, but the other part is also, you're really cheating the process, right? You're not really being true, and if you are going to get into a B school without ethics, then it's something which probably has a large bearing on what you're going to do post that. But also from a perspective that if you're going to write your essays and if you're going to write your own recommendations, trust me, anybody can see through it. Okay? With my experience, I can just look at it and say, hey, this guy who wrote the reco is the same guy who ended up writing the essays. So what you do is you prep them, right? You prep them with, a copy of your CV, your application essays, having a conversation with them, tell them, hey, this is why I'm looking at this B school. What is your opinion? So get them involved, get them involved in the process, get their buy-in to the whole MBA thing as early as possible, right? And it may be a good idea to also even go with a one-sheet document saying, these are the 10 things that I did over the last 1 year. So just in case you're racking your brains trying to think of my achievements, you know what you need to write. So you're just basically helping them. And more importantly, try giving recommenders ample time, right? So remember that you don't have to approach them for just one school. You might have their recommendation required for multiple schools, and also remember that they are not giving recommendation only for you. So they might not tell you on your face, but the fact is they have multiple people who they are going to be working with when they are going to be doing this. So just be careful on that part. Now coming to this part, the fact, so when you're talking about college transcripts, in the US the standard GPA is calculated out of 4. However, this is not true for most Indian schools, right? So make sure that you do not try to convert it to a 4-point GPA, okay? So make sure that you are able to, you are providing just the numbers that you have with you, right? It would be impossible for anyone to actually convert it to a 4-point GPA. So just be careful on that part, okay? You'll be surprised that a lot of these foreign B schools have heard a lot about the Indian schools, right? Indian engineering schools. They know how hard it is to get in, what IITs are, what NITs are. They know how hard it is to pass certain courses. They know the, value of the transcript. So all of it is, something that you don't need to worry about. And finally, when you're filling in your application, correct? As I said earlier, make sure that you have the transcripts in advance, correct? So you have the transcripts and you know what needs to be done, okay? Third thing about the essays, we will be getting into the essays in details, but typically each school requires you to fill in an online form, okay, which will contain a lot of details about who you are, right, your experience, your education. But apart from this, you'll also be writing various essays, okay, which will assess your motivation to join a B school. We will be looking at each specific essays in the slides later on, but remember that all essays come with a word limit. Some of the schools have even a PPT. In fact, ISB this year is going to come out with a 90-second video. Correct? So make sure that you stick to the word limit. If it says 90 seconds in the video, make sure that your video ends in 88 or 89 seconds, right? So make sure that you stick to what is being said. Do not repeat information. This is another mistake that a lot of people do when they write their essays, which is they repeat the resume. They say, hey, by the way, I'm a software engineer at, Infosys, and, as part of my job responsibilities, I do blah, blah, blah. Think about it as real estate, right? I mean, think of it as, say you have 500, 700 square feet of land and you're going to build a house. You probably want to optimize each square inch that you have available. So the same thing with word limits, the same thing with what you have in your application. Make sure that you are able to maximize it. And lastly, something that I know sounds, it should come naturally to you, but probably is very hard because we tend to Google, we tend to see for, well, what is it that other people have written, and in that course we end up plagiarizing. But be honest, right? Write what you really think is what you want to tell, correct? You don't write what you think the outcome wants to hear. Easier said than done, but be honest. I think that's something which has helped students more than trying to sound what they are not. As I said, we'll be coming to our essays later, but before that, after you get your application through, if you're shortlisted, in fact, most of the schools these days require you to have an interview before they select you. So be prepared for a personal interview. They usually are announced about a month after you apply. Two types of interviews, one taken by the admission committee and the other taken by alumni. What happens when you take it with the admission committee is they know your background. They already have your essays, they have your application, so they know what needs to be asked. The questions are very, in that sense, a very overall question. But it could be taken by an alumni as well. In the case of an alumni interview, it is usually a need, it's usually a blind interview. What does a blind interview mean? It means that your profile is not known to the person who is interviewing, correct? So he hasn't gone through your CV, he hasn't gone through your application, he's just going to meet you, almost like a blind date and tell them what he or she likes about you. A lot of interviews are conducted in person, especially for large schools. For example, if it's an Indian school, then obviously you're going to probably go down to Hyderabad for an ISB interview or Chennai for a Great Lakes interview. But if it is going to be a foreign university, many a times if you apply well in advance, the admission committee comes down for a lot of these MBA tours. So during that time, they might end up interviewing you, or if nothing else, they will have an interview over phone or Skype. Okay, so Skype also has come across as a preferred medium of conducting interviews. And be prepared to ask questions outside your application. A lot of people tend to think of interview as like a quiz program, that this guy is going to ask me 5 things that I've written in your application. It's not, it's usually a very friendly conversation that you'll be surprised to know that a lot of times the guy is not really checking what you've written, right? That's where, maybe the Indian aspect comes in, where we think that they are cross-questioning what we want to do, but this person just wants to assess your personality. He wants to know whether your communication, whether you will be able to gel well within a team, what are your rationale, whether what you've written in your application is a true reflection of who you are, or did you just go to this MBA application specialist and, get your entire application written. So let's have an overview of MBA essays. So each school, as I said, may require anywhere between 3 to 5 essays, right? So these essays are based on a variety of different things, and schools have their own rationale, when they require you to write these essays. Now, what is it that these schools really look for when they, put the essays? So I would put it this way, think of yourself as a person who is applying, and think of this as your goal, correct? This is where you want to reach. And an MBA is basically a loop through which you'll have to pass through. So this is you, right? This is MBA, and this is your goal. So what we are looking at is, we are looking at a person who is able to articulate this well, right? So where do you want to go, correct? It's very important that you answer this. And, where are you now, correct? So very important that you know your gifts and gaps, correct? And how an MBA will help. Simple, correct? If you are able to answer these 3 questions honestly, most MBAs, essays will actually be a lot easier, right? So let's look at what are the essays that come through as part of these 3. So first of all, why you want to an MBA, which is, in other words, what is your short-term and long-term goals, and why an MBA will get you there. So be as specific as possible, especially with your short-term goals. A lot of people tend to write in generics. They say, well, I am at a technical role, I want to get into management. That is not a good enough answer. For you to make a transition from technical to management, you can as well take the PMP and become a project manager, correct? MBA is more than that, right? So you have to be very specific. You have to tell what is the job title, what is the industry, what is the domain, what will a typical day in your life post MBA look like. You have to be very, very precise when you are giving the answer, correct? So it's very important that you do your R&D around it, and you are very precise in your answer. One great resource that you can use is LinkedIn. So if you are looking at a B school, try to see where are the graduates from these B schools actually headed to. Which industry do they go to. If your dream company is, say, Procter & Gamble, the question to ask yourself is Procter & Gamble actually hiring from this B school? What is the career state of a person 3 years down the line in Procter & Gamble after he's graduated from this particular B school? Correct? So these are questions you need to answer. Alumni can be a great source. So you reach out, you ask them a nice question, they will be more than happy to answer that for you. Okay? So just make sure that you're very, very, very clear. Don't upsell, don't undersell. So don't say, I want to be a CEO 2 years after you graduate. Correct? That sounds kind of stupid. And don't say that I want to become a project manager, immediately, that's my career goal, because that also sounds a bit crappy, because to be a project manager or to just do something like that, you don't need to really invest the amount of money and the amount of time that an MBA requires you to do, correct? I have a bunch load of, students who say, I don't have the faintest clue what I want to do post MBA, correct? What do I do in that case? My advice, you still need to know what you want to do, right? Not just for the B schools, but for yourself. But for, to justify the investment of time and money and energy that is going to go into a 2-year MBA program or a 1-year MBA program, you need to be very clear where it is going to take you, right? So if you don't have an idea, no problem, sit, think, try to figure out answers to this. Another question that the B school may ask, may not ask in a very direct way, but sometimes in an indirect way is, why now? Why is it so important that you have to apply to this round? Why can't you wait for another year? Or why didn't you apply last year? So you'll have to show that your career is in a point of inflection. It's the trajectory is at that exact precise moment where an MBA is going to catapult you of to a far greater distance than if you had taken at any different point in your career. So very important that you think about this. Third question, why you? Right? This is the point. What is it about you that makes you believe that you are best suited for an MBA? Some of the key areas that they check. What is your academic potential? Right? How do they do that? By looking at your undergraduate school. They look at your GPA. They look at your GMAT. Very little that you can change over here apart from your GMAT scores. But the fact is, if you are from IIT Delhi, 9.5 GPA, computer science, obviously it's going to be a lot better than, say, going to a mid-tier or a lower ranked school in India and scoring, say, 40% or 50%. Correct? But GMAT is definitely a great equalizer, one objective measure by which all these schools know who you are and where you stand. The other thing that B schools understand is that the 1 or 2 years that you actually spend in a B school is not going to magically transform you into a leader. Correct? It is not going to magically transform you into a leader. It is going to make you understand leadership better, but you have to be a leader from within. Okay? So which is why they look at certain traits of leadership potential. I would call it leadership potential. So they look at your career progression. Come on. I mean, if you think about it, career progression is a great way to see if you have the leadership potential, because the organization that you worked with, right, they are the people seeing you day in and day out, knowing whether you are doing well, whether you are lacking in some areas, constantly giving you feedback to improve. And if you have improved, they will give you greater roles, greater responsibilities, which usually lead to larger titles. So you see a promotion, correct? A promotion will come only when you have certain amount of leadership to take up the next challenge, next responsibility, next role. The other way in which they see leadership is also extracurriculars. So why is extracurriculars important for leadership? Because a leader is not a person who's just going to be stuck in a 9-to-5 job, come back home, watch TV and go to bed. A leader is someone who usually has more interest than just work. It could be anything, as long as you are able to show that you've been able to constructively utilize your time. That's all you need when it comes to extracurriculars. One misconception that students seem to have is the whole deal about NGO work, right? Not-for-profit work. Now, the origin of this myth is probably from the US, because in the US, culturally, it is accepted that you do NGO work, right? That's a lot easier to do it in the US. So if you're going to show how I spent my spare time constructively, a lot of these guys who went to top B schools showed, NGO work. However, in India, it's okay not to show NGO work. It is okay if you're going to say that, well, on weekends I was working on a startup idea, or on the weekends I was practicing with my band, right? Or on the weekends I was busy, biking across Nandi Hills. Whatever your passion is, they just look at some way in which you have constructively channelized your passion. That's what, according to them, is leadership. It is not necessarily working for an NGO. The third thing they look at is the kind of work that you have done, right? How much of it is cross-cultural, how much of it is cross-functional. So, one misconception that again has come is the fact that if you are in IT, you are actually disadvantaged. Yes, there are more people applying from the IT pool than probably any other pool, especially in India. However, within this pool also, they look at the quality of work that you have done. Correct? So if you have worked in a large company, they want to see if you actually took the initiative and did something which actually cut across. Were you an individual contributor? Were you a guy who was sitting alone in a corner cubicle coding? Or were you a person who actually interacted and knew the functions of other departments? Were you a person who groomed this innate managerial leadership quality within yourself? Did you work with people outside India? If you have had an opportunity to travel outside India, that is taken as a big positive, because they then know that this person has cross-cultural experience. He knows how Europeans work or how Americans work. So that's seen as a great plus in today's global environment. Finally, what I call as, it's a marketing term, which is called unique selling proposition. So all this being equal, what is it that you bring to the table? What is the unique quality that you bring to the table? And this is where I think, students tend to struggle. They are not able to really articulate that USP. My advice is go and talk to your friends, talk to people who know you well, and tell them what is that one adjective, which really makes me who I am. So it could be, for example, Arun the helper, the guy who helps everyone. In which case you need to go back and look at your profile and say, can I bring that as a theme? And can I tie that back to why I want to do an MBA? Or if someone says, Amit the analytical guy, the guy who can reduce everything into metrics and numbers. These are things which you really need to introspect. These are not things that would come to you immediately, so you need to put in a lot of effort trying to find the answers. But the sooner that you do it, the easier it will be for you. In fact, my suggestion is ask yourself these questions even before you take the GMAT. Probably this is one question that you might want to wait for after you take the GMAT, which is why us? Why do you want to apply to this particular B school? What is your motivation to apply to this particular B school? Again, one mistake that a lot of students do is they write these cliched statements, saying you have world-class infrastructure. Frankly, what does world-class infrastructure mean? You want to say that they have broadband internet, you want to say that they have air-conditioned libraries. Mostly all schools these days have it, right? So you have to be very clear, because think about it, right? So what will you say for Stanford that you cannot say for MIT, right? Whatever statement you can say for Stanford, right, I can challenge that you can probably say that for MIT as well, right? So you have to be very careful. It's very hard. You have to go in depth. Again, what I said earlier, which is when you talk to students, try to gauge what is the culture of that place. Try to gauge what are the unique things that the school has to offer. Try to see if it fits in with your own perspective of what you want out of a B school. Right? It's very important that you do the research, and very, very important that you articulate it. In fact, there is a Haas-Berkeley essay that I'll be showing you after a couple of slides, which really, nails this question. So the third question, what have you done to know more about our school in the past 1 year? Frankly, if you're going to be writing this application 3 weeks before the deadline, there is no way you're going to escape this question, correct? Think about it. What are you going to say? That you watched YouTube videos, or that you Googled for them, right? Because it's asking you what you did in the whole year. So this is, according to me, a dead-end question. You really cannot escape. You really cannot faff your way through this question. Some other interesting questions. Stanford GSB has this question. It's been a long-running question. In fact, for many years, we have retained this question. And just take out maybe 10-15 seconds and think about what it says. What do you value most in life and why? Okay. Imagine this is a B school lesson, right? Sometimes it can be very hard to answer it. Kellogg says, tell me something about you that could surprise us. And the common retort that I have from students is, well, I could tell them stuff that could not surprise but shock them. I want to surprise them, not shock them, correct? So you want to tell. And the interesting thing is Kellogg asks you this question after almost 4 or 5 questions. He'll say, background, blah, 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 this, that. Then you have exhausted everything that you have to speak about yourself. It just pops this question, tell me something more. So my advice is think through the B school application, think through what you have to offer the B schools. Very important that you start this process even before you take the GMAT. If you have any questions, please do visit us on our website, or you can like us on Facebook. We keep updating with various videos and various blogs of interest, and follow us on Twitter. You can just ask any questions on AskPack Global on Twitter, and finally our blog, where we provide a lot of information around the MBA application process. Thank you, and we will be having the third part in the series, which would talk about GMAT in detail. Thank you.